barrier, broke through time and space, and we're just right now back at the beginning yet again based on that opening series. And certainly, Casie will feel like he got the brutal end. So hopefully this is not Groundhog Day for him. Hopefully he just doesn't have to live the same Hearthstone series over and over again. You can see what it means. The winner of this will join Yala in our Sunday finals to decide our spots at the World Championship. And the loser is going to have their season ended, unfortunately, as only one player in each season is able to make it to the World Championship.
Yeah, Group B today. Once this match is over, we will be showing you one match from the relegation gauntlet bracket later on after this is over. We're going to have one match from the relegation per day until that final day, of course, when we see who is actually going to be joining ball control in Silvername in the relegations from the European region this season. But for now, we still have our playoff match. And then, of course, we'll be jumping into Group A tomorrow and basically a rinse and repeat with our Group A players, of course. But for now, it's going to be the Druid versus the Rogue. And I never know what to make of this matchup, Sol. Do you have any strong opinions on it either way? I feel like it's always a tricky one with the Rogue, but the Druid has so much potential power, it's kind of tough for the Rogue to keep up with, but I'm never sure whether I'm right on that.
I do think it's fairly definitively Rogue favored now since the nerf. I think it was a lot closer to even beforehand, but I think particularly in this matchup, Guardian Animals is one of the biggest cards that you just straight up lose to if it comes down early enough, so I think that specifically being the card that got hit impacts this matchup quite a lot. But, you know, there's many ways that Rogue can now approach this that does end in a win. It doesn't have to be the huge Edwin or the huge questing that everyone talks about with this deck. Like, you can just go 1-2 into 3-2 into 1-4 into play some lackeys and just hit them with all of those minions over the course of the first 4 turns, and then curve that into Jandis or whatever else. And that can quite often still be an aggro enough start to beat down Druid when they're just that 1 turn slower now than they used to be.
Right, and that's it. If there's something... I mean, Rogue can do many things right now, but if there's something they consistently do is make a lot of stuff, normally, and that's where it's going to be the tough one for Blyze to keep up with here. And not having access to any ramp, or hard ramp at least for now, it's going to be a bit of a problem as he just ends up having to leave Hanar up, which can feel pretty rough as Druid, especially now with this secret passage. I have to assume Casie is just fishing for the secret train.
Yep, secrets, Edwin, questing as a decent consolation prize, hits absolutely none of the above here. Disgusting. No Stormu! Hello!
Wait a minute. Isn't the only way you win by having the Druid not ramp Subtle?
I mean, that is a bizarre pick. We've seen Gallon do this previously, where I think it was actually inspired, where just having the 8/8 would be able to get over the line. But, I mean, Druid is so dependent now on having mana that, you know, as long as they have 10 mana, this idea of, like, well, if I play one huge minion, Druid died, they rotated out Naturalize, ha 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 ha, it's just not true anymore. They play a freaking Broomstick in their deck, and they have a card that gives their beasts Rush. Like, they're just gonna kill you.
That's it, right? Like, all I see now is if this is Nosdormu comes down next turn, Blyze just plays Guardian Animals and wins the game. I don't know. I didn't even see what the other picks were.
No, I didn't.
So fast. So I don't even know what the other choices were, but I am baffled.
It's very possible that this is just a card he's going to play in the late game, just as a 4-mana 8/8, just to have an extra threat if it goes that long against Druid, which I think is much more likely. But no, certainly you cannot play this just on turn 4 as an 8/8. I think that is ludicrous.
He is piecing together a ton of resources, though, as well as this pressure. And Blyze, less so right now.
Less so indeed.
So you have to, like,
Broom
and then Adorable?
Or Adorable,
oh, okay.
Yeah, I guess that works too. Either way.
Yeah, anything to kill the Hanar, right?
Yeah.
Elder Broom.
Sick. Just give it all Rush. Yeah, love it.
I mean...
Powerful.
It doesn't matter, right, after next turn, because then it's just going to bloom out Guardian, right? So I actually... I think this is it looks weird, and on paper it's kind of bad, but it's good.
How much can he do with the questing here? You can go questing, backstab. He can Titanic Lackey the 1/4 and keep it away from his questing, but that would mean that he isn't dealing with the 4/3 this turn, which is slightly awkward.
Give me a quest.
Yeah, everything's just ever so slightly awkward. He needs to find a prep spell, I think, here for this turn to be as powerful as he would like it to be. And none of those really fit the bill.
Yeah, this looks like it does more than enough for me right now. Buffing up this questing in the taunt down, and most importantly, this secret has got to be a little bit of a worry, because again, does he really... I mean, he wants to because he has to, but he is going to give Casie, not so much the Guardian Animals, of course, but the Bloom.
Yes. Does mean the questing will survive.
Wait, he can he can Bloom Guardian. Not quite as powerful in that.
Yeah, especially when he has played both of his Ferrocats, I believe. Yeah,
oh,
shot
that is something I want to see before this card rotates out.
I've actually seen, like, someone sent me a screenshot. I can't remember who it was. Someone sent me a screenshot of where, like, Guardian Animals into the Ferrocats was lethal because the rush damage actually, like, got them
That
through the
opened
taunt
up.
that they needed
Yeah,
to push
yeah.
damage. I can't remember
That's
who it
genius.
was. If that was you, remind me.
Oh, you're talking to viewers. Okay. Just about plus the trade is going to clear off this question, but now we might start to see this this early Nozdormu pick from Casie actually start to pay off. Not necessarily this turn, but in the very, very near future, as suddenly Bly's gaining 1 or 2 mana crystals might not have as much of an impact as if he did it on curve. Pretty solid Jandis, actually. It's not none of the super high roll cards, but good cards at least. Oh, it's actually so much value. He has to attack with this, right?
Yeah, I agree. Jandis just ends up being insane though. Like neither minion was actually an illusion there. They both got to hit for their complete and full value. And
Yeah.
speaking of insane, this Shadow Step, alongside now, just because of timing considerations, the Nozdormu as well
Whoa.
starts to become quite enticing. But Casie just wants to push. Equipping the dagger allows him to force through the extra damage this turn.
What makes
He's going to back this up with the Neophyte.
One Thief Neophyte, yeah.
Could have also played the One Thief first, although I imagine there's not much he would have chose to do that isn't Jandis right now.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, he has to like Shadow Step first, then One Thief, right? Would be technically the best order, but
Right,
small
but like
details.
I said, yeah, he's probably not going to pick anything instead.
Mm-hmm.
Definitely a lot worse Jandis than he had previously. But I guess you can't be too upset about your second Jandis of the game back to back.
Right. I do feel like that was a decent turn to consider the 8/8 though. The
Yeah,
problem
me
is that
too.
you then don't get the Cult Neophyte down alongside it, I guess. Like 4 from the Nozdormu, 3 from the Jandis, and then obviously you can't fit in the Cult Neophyte alongside that. So I guess one turn later, or just have to do.
I concede.
And as you can see,
100% played win rate! Nozdormu the Timeless! Let's go!
that was just easy. Casie there picking that Nozdormu, throwing us all off, at least for the early game. And you see, obviously, we were talking about the pitfalls of playing it on curve. That was never going to be Casey's plan. He's a little bit too good of a player to do that one and throw the game there, but doesn't mean he gets off to a much better start than he did in his previous matchup versus Blyze earlier today. Getting a win pretty easy with that rogue there, just not really letting Blyze take control of that game in any way with the Druid. But yet again, Sol, it's just, I feel like, again, just down to just we're not seeing Druids draw ramp. We're not seeing Overgrowth played in these Druid games. And I think that's having such a big effect on them, even more so post-nerf.
Yeah, that's why I kind of felt a bit sorry for Falcane in that game. I really liked the line he took where he like ramped all the way into Overflow just to find those extra draws to hit Overgrowth, which then did pay off because he hit the Overgrowth and he was able to play his game normally. But yeah, we're really not seeing Druids hit the gas here. And again, I do think that was a very nicely pieced together strategy from Casie in that game. I would have liked to have seen what the other options were outside of the Nozdormu the Timeless because, you know, essentially like he picked like a 9-drop there. Like, yes, it cost 4, but he picked a card to play on turn 9, if you get what I'm saying. Whereas against Druid, conventionally, you just take like the best curve minion that you could just play on curve on turn 5 or turn 6 or whatever else. So what it was up against there, I would have found particularly interesting. But 4 mana 8/8 against Druid, when you remove a lot of the card text, is always going to be very powerful. As Raven are 0 mana 8/8s if Casie is able to get towards those fairly quickly with this Sorcerer's Apprentice Mana Giant hand.
Yeah, and speaking of Druids not getting hold of Overgrowth, Blyze has just got hold of it, and that Breath of Dreams not being cast this turn because now he has Overgrowth on 3 due to that Nature Studies, and suddenly we've got a bit of a game on our hands now. Is that Wild Growth as well?
Overgrowth, Wild Growth, Breath of Dreams, all in hand.
Just rips your Ysera off the top next turn.
Casey's just going. Casey's just off to the races already. Playable. Yeah, okay. Elemental Allies Cyclone. Shambhala will now round out that Elemental Allies on the following turn.
Nice. Oh. Well. I guess luckily for Blyze, he has the ability to Crystal Power this 3-2, because otherwise might be a little bit afraid of the potion we can see in Casey's hand right now.
That's right.
No Firebrand, though, for Casie, which means he's not going to have a good answer to this runner at all.
Yeah, and the spells from the Cyclone just ended up being too expensive here to really be able to go down the Elemental Allies route for Casie, so he's going to have to give up on that temporarily. Still has the Cheap Giant and the Shambhala in hand as elementals that he can work with, but he needs to get some cards out of his hand before he can start drawing more spells at this point.
Oh, and look at this now. This is just Mount Seller, fill your board kind of turn here.
Yep.
Violet Runner drawing the double beast is kind of bad there for Blyze, but still, he has more than enough to get going with now.
It's so ridiculous, right? Like, any game where Druid draws Overgrowth, you just look at it and go, like, well, what nerf? Like, what has changed? Like, how do you ever beat this? They just have to draw Overgrowth and a payoff card, and they just feel, like, absolutely monstrous, regardless of how effective that nerf has been on specifically Guardian Animals. But speaking of effective, here we are with Apprentice pop-off turn number 2 now for Casie.
So how's that Devolving Missiles to back it up, which is huge.
Huge deal.
It's going to have to be really huge, though, because this is not reducing this board down by that much.
Yeah, the Mount Seller is not a Mount Seller anymore, though. That is a big deal.
That is true, that is true. But in terms of actually being able to clear the board and get ahead this turn, which is normally what you want from Devolving Missiles a lot of the time,
yeah,
we can see it's definitely not going to cut it here.
You can see he only had 6 damage worth of attacks there left at the end, so he just straight up could not kill the Mount Seller without putting something different together. So just being able to Devolving Missiles that way means that at least he gets to play this game, because passing the turn back to your opponent when they have a Mount Seller on the board is not a game that you win.
Ooh, well, opens up a... that was pretty clutch, actually. That allowed Blyze to kill off this Sorcerer's Apprentice and greatly reduce the power of Casey's potential next few turns. We can see it wouldn't have been insane because of the cards he has access to, but 1/1 Maker can change that, so still for Blyze, taking down the high priority minion.
Instant Shambhala here just to complete the side quest. And then Conjurer's Calling, I imagine, has to be the second half of the turn. Casie will do his due diligence and wait to see what the draws are. Those are quite bad.
I actually wish we had a mic on them for Casie, because it looked like he had a couple of words for that Conjurer's Calling. I would like to hear it.
Yeah.
And Octosari,
I supply
just as
only the
good as it can be just as terrible as well, right?
Well,
Depending
I mean-
on how large your hand size is.
You might be surprised to hear this, Raven, but that's not the one that I'm disappointed about right now. Like,
I have
the-
literally never heard you mention the 12-12 ever. So
Yeah.
I'm shocked.
like the 8-8 is still an 8-8. It still threatens. It ends the game. It has to be dealt with. Like the 12-12 just doesn't. Like,
Yeah.
Blyze could just largely leave it there if he wanted it to.
But the 8-8 that has to be dealt with burns a lot of cards.
Mm-hmm.
Did get the 0-mana Giant though, loses the Raz. Right, Frost is a big deal.
Oh, it says explode.
I mean, yeah, Flame Strike does the job. What are you on about? This 12-12 is sick.
Still winnable.
Yep. And it's just
promise
now
you
just a
one-
great target for Conjurers.
Yeah, I promise you, one of these minions is getting conjured, and it's the smaller. It's the bigger one that's getting Conjurer's Calling on this turn. Make no mistake about it.
Oh, Firebrand looks like one of the best cards in the game when he does this, right? It's so insane.
Yo, this potion is now low-key kind of popping again. Potion on Heroic Innkeeper. Taunt Battlecry, gain +2/+2 for each other friendly minion.
The Twin Tyrants as
Yeah!
well. Like,
I mean, I don't know what we're getting excited about. If the board lives, he just kind of wins the game, whether he has a potion or not, but lots of cool things can happen.
I believe there's 23 with ping. A quick count.
Agreed.
Oh, wait a minute.
Nethrandamus. None of these look like evasive Draconids to me. Nope.
Or even Worm.
Yeah, it's true.
So spend some cards. Evocation for me.
Stewart. Yikes.
Ugh. They're horrible. Is Evocation not better?
The remaining cards in the
Draw.
deck are Devolving, Spellwing, Lab Partner, Astromancer. So the Spellwing is nice because it's like at least a reliable source of extra damage, but not while your opponent has this giant board state on the other side.
Right,
so
right.
I don't really think any of the cards in your deck are particularly helpful to you right now. Is the campaign slogan of the Tempo Mage.
Why play with your cards?
Yep.
You can play with everyone else's.
Yep. So yeah, I kind of agree with this. None of the above and just lock the board state out. I like it.
Oh, okay, okay. Well, not good enough, but okay.
You think this is your time? It is mine. Do not lose these.
Broom.
Change anything? That's right.
It changes everything, Raven.
Yeah.
There was still one portal left in the deck, so Blyze hit the perfect number here to actually get maximum board presence to rush into the minions and still have the one board space remaining to be able to drop the broom.
So now there's only 8 showing. 9 with ping, of course.
Yep.
So Casie has to find 6 from somewhere.
Mirror image. Drop the Evo. No.
Nope.
It's a 5 damage Flame Strike, but that doesn't really
No.
achieve that much. He could
And also-
evolve into Flame Strike.
Yeah, and funnily enough, the Evo actually then made the potion plan worse because he did have potion with the Twin Tyrant and the Firebrand, which is obviously a lot of damage, but you can't do both effectively, of course.
Mm-hmm.
polymorph the 8/8 potentially. Does that get him anywhere?
I don't think so.
No, it does it. Yeah, because mirror entity is rubbish, isn't it? So
Yeah.
that 1 mana off the 6/6 as well. Wow, that's rough. Casie would have greatly liked an additional 6/6 this turn.
So is Casie just
Pressure.
fatiguing him at this point? Is that what's happening?
Well, the weird thing is, yes, but the problem is Casey's also fatiguing right now, which means like Blaze has survival of the fittest, which greatly increases the fatigue clock, so I've heard. Oh, he hit the taunt. That's pretty big.
He's got to cash out this potion, right? I would imagine.
Oh, I think he would have really liked to have gone Astromancer Potion, but yeah, I think he has to. Replay the Tyrant.
Like, he could have still done it that turn. It would have left some kind of board presence up for the opponent, which I think if you're like pushing to win the game, this is probably the best way to go about doing it.
Okay, so he's on 29. Like, he does have time.
Right. And it also, like, it's just every Astromancer you make actually buys you more time, right? Not only because it's a Solarian Prime, but because it offsets fatigue by a card when it shuffles in. So
yeah,
worth thinking about.
And now because it's not on board, then it's not really gonna have an impact in the game. Probably now at this point, we might be too far gone. Does have Ironbark now as well, so he can not only make this minions a little bit bigger, but can taunt them up. The problem is that enough?
Last card for xBlyzes is a Dream Portal as well, so xBlyzes is also technically already fatiguing at this point. He will take 1 next turn.
Does he ever draw it now? He can draw it now and play a 4/4 and taunt the biggest thing up. And then hope that the board sticks to land survival on it. I don't know. It's a really tough call.
Yeah, the problem is if you hit like Brightwing or Fairy Dragon or anything like that, it's more like you're just dead on board. Then
it's really tough. Like, it can win you the game and it can lose you the game, and that's why it's a tough call. This just gets him.
I'm assuming he's counted this already.
Yeah.
Spell damage, spell damage.
A million lab partners.
Arcane missiles, arcane missiles. What's he playing? +3 spell damage? So 6, 12 missiles.
Plus 4.
Yeah. Oh yeah, +4. Is there? Sorry, so 14 missiles. Yeah, so there's almost no way this ever goes wrong. I'm pretty sure it's 100%. Yep. Casie gonna clutch this one out. Very nice setup towards the end. Really, really difficult game to navigate towards the end of that. I think there was probably several different directions that did win, but also several directions that lost, and you just, you had to choose your own adventure and turn to the right page, or else you were going to get ambushed by a troll and lose. And Casie was just able to go over the line in the end in what was a very, very clutch matchup.
Yeah, that tickled me more than it should, because I used to read a lot of those books as a kid, and it happened so often. Where you pick one, it's like, you're dead. It's like, what? I didn't even get a choice.
Yeah.
It was so bad. But yeah, we are going to see now Casie 2-0 up, of course. And I do agree. I think that was a very tricky game from both sides as well. There were some tough calls that xBlyzes had to make. That, whether they were right or wrong, who knows. But definitely could have gone a few different options there. But it was going to leave Casie on this Demon Hunter. So again, let's just chalk it up to, let's say xBlyzes gets a win with the Druid automatically if we really want to pick. And that is going to be the game.
Sure.
I didn't even know that. But let's assume this is a win for xBlyzes. Obviously, Casie can win. If we're just going off the stats, then he still has Mage, and I guess most importantly that Priest to take down. So still winnable for xBlyzes, I would say. Still very winnable with this Demon Hunter left up for Casie.
Yeah, winnable, but I would not say that he has the ideal lineup to be facing this matchup. Like, it's not going to be the same struggle bus for Casie to find a win with his Demon Hunter as it was for xBlyzes to find a win with his Demon Hunter against Yala, for example.
Right.
Because the Priest on the other side is Highlander Priest from xBlyzes, which I believe is a slightly worse matchup than the 2-ofs version, and obviously the Mage as well. We continue to talk about that matchup as if it's Demon Hunter favored, even though we keep seeing the Mage come out on top. So I think Casie is in a very, very dominant position in this series overall, because although we are ascribing the free win to the Druid here, and I think reasonably so, it can happen. Like, Demon Hunter has beaten Druid before. It has occurred in the history of Hearthstone. So, you know, when you factor in this 30-35%, and then the 50% against Mage, 50% against Priest, even if you want to be generous to Bly's decks, which I think I am being extremely generous there with those percentages, you can feel how overwhelmingly favored Casie is in the series as a whole.
Here as well, though, Blyze does have access to wild growth and an overgrowth, so he is going to be able to play the game the way he wants to with all that mana so much earlier than Casie. And Casie, although has had the double one drop, not the most explosive opening incoming, mainly because there's just not a weapon there, and this Blade Dance might get a little bit trapped. Mainly because it's hard to cast without a weapon, although Twin Slice can help out with that.
That's right. Healing Touch. Bly skips out on the Twilight Runner just to continue overgrowthing, which I absolutely love with Overflow in hand and with Mount Cellar in hand. Casie going to do the best he can to just load up board and push damage. It's a pretty one-dimensional plan, but it's all Casie really has here when he's this far behind on mana and about to be this far behind on resources as well.
Yeah, the fancy Demon Hunter things, one, can happen in other matchups, but also happen once the Druid starts doing these turns, right? Like, so, do you just innovate out healing? Okay.
He sure did, Raven. Just innovated Healing Touch. It's 2020.
No, we would have had one spare mana crystal if it was the old school innovate, of course.
Yeah, that's true. Guardian Animals.
Ooh, one Thresher gone. Double Runner, of course, in hand makes this guaranteed. As a Thresher.
Cleave once again. No real way to prevent that this time with the 4 minions on board from Casie. That was always going to line up quite poorly.
And however much that happens to me, you know, where I'm playing 4 minions into an expected Guardian Animals, I still try and make it work. I'm just like, it just doesn't. I'm like, there must be a way.
Yeah, the best you can do usually is biggest minion to one side and then second biggest minion next to it.
Yes.
That's usually the closest that you can get to actually doing anything, but it generally doesn't matter as soon as you have 4 minions.
But now there's all of the Mount Cellar options in the world right now. It's gonna go Runner. I wondered if this was just a good turn to get Mount Cellar down. There's two. It's only 2 spells. But
just play it as a 5/8.
Just get one, because then they have to kill it, and if they do, okay, fine. But they've done something pretty miraculous to kill a relatively big board. And if they don't kill it, you have Overflow X next turn, which seems insane.
Right.
Whereas this seems like much more likely to die, actually, this board.
Such a beauty.
Just short of the perfect Blade Dance, but I think he does need to unlock the skull here. So he will just stick a 5/5 essentially. I know it hurts. Look away. Look away. It's okay. It's okay. It's okay. The bad thing's gone. Look, the board's clear. You've got a 5/5. You're playing skull next turn.
Okay.
This is great. This is great.
Overgrowth just to effectively trade it in for 2 beasts, which I think 4 mana generate 2 additional beasts seems pretty good to me.
Yeah.
Just get to draw a card as well, of course.
Blade Dance now available again. And Casie can climb to 8 here with the Twin Slices. Oh.
This is actually a very annoying board for Casie to deal with.
Demons.
It's just like
Demons.
2 out of the 4 minions you really don't want to have to swing into with anything.
Right.
If he puts the 5/5 into the 1/2, then there's still a chance that he whiffs without swinging as well.
Right.
It's just horrible, isn't it?
I grow in
You don't break the walk, see?
Yeah, no real way to even take something out to clear the way for the Blade Dance without massively overkilling it. Like, there's so many problems here.
It's just the most awkward shaped board, and funnily enough, like the Salet's Pride is very frustrating. It's 1 health. shouldn't be frustrating, but it is.
Grows short.
It's also guaranteed brooms for your opponent.
Yeah. Let's go about it the right way, though. If he is going to choose to tank, he tank the lowest attack, of course. The 5/5 went into a 1-2.
Oh, that was not okay. I can't even pretend, Raven. I'm traumatized. 8 damage just went into a 3-1.
Creatures.
Yeah.
Oh,
Yeah. I've just grown numb to it now, so the previous turn ruined me enough. Wouldn't Blyze be dead if Casie had those 2 turns in a row to just put the damage to the face? Feels like he would be, though, and that's what's important to me right
I'll
now.
tell you who would have been dead. Casie.
That's true. And now it's just Mount Seller number 2, and that's it. The security the second Mount Seller gives you is huge. And even though that first one didn't look impactful, one, it definitely was, because Casie had to trade into a 3-1. Look at this now. There's 2 Blade Dance gone. No Shard Chatter to even try and help out.
Right.
And this
Only
looks
2
like that
fragments in the
free win
Sociologist.
we were
And
talking
yeah.
about.
Yeah.
Lies gets the victory with the Druid there. To be expected. And again, though, we did see the difference between having a weapon equipped early and not. I think we've seen it maybe more often than usual in these games today, where Demon Hunter in that turn 3 to 5 sort of gap just hasn't had Marrow Slicer, hasn't even had Eldraki Warblades that often, because then that would have changed the outcome of everything there. More damage would have been pushed. Maybe the second part of the weapon is still equipped to make the clear easier or different. You know, the numbers look different for Casie to push more damage, but still, rough one there. But again, that was an expected outcome. You go into a Demon Hunter versus Druid, as if you're the Demon Hunter, you don't expect to win that game. Going into Mage, on the other hand, although again, the Grandmaster stats don't really show it, I would still be comfortable as the Demon Hunter.
Yeah, for sure. And, you know, hopefully Casie has a smoother time for his sake than he did in that previous game, because it was a real nail-biter against Felkane, where it felt like right up until like the Blade Dance Jandis turn that Casie was just in full control and that the damage was just always going to get there. But then slowly but surely, like, the tide started to shift back against him, because he really just didn't draw any value. He didn't get any cycle from his deck, so he was running so low on resources. But that is actually not going to be the case this time around, because we see Casie Skull far left, supported by the 1-2 curve as well on the play. This is about as good a hand as Casie could possibly hope for here.
Yeah, he literally just needs Eldraki Warblades by the time he gets to turn 3, and this is just the god hand. I mean, that's pretty good as well. He can turn his 1-maker into a 3-drop now.
Yes, he can. This is the exact same start he did have against Felkane. I believe he hero powered a 1-1 in that game as well, but it's night and day. Like, honestly, the state of this game compared to the last one, like, Casie was in a good position against Felkane, but he did not have a skull on the far left of his hand at this point. And having a skull on the far left of his hand right now means he is in an insanely good position in this game.
It is why I'm always advocating for the amount of keeps in the opening hands in many matchups, honestly, because I think the difference between having it and not is just so huge. Double fragment draws a little bit of money. That'll help.
Thar off the top. He now already has a play for next turn if it comes down to it. We'll make a Cow Strike.
Someday I'll be just like you.
Yeah, Bly's just gonna go.
I don't blame him with this opening. I don't think you can wait. I think a lot of Mage players like to be greedy with these turns and like wait and wait and wait for Apprentice. After seeing this opening from Demon Hunter, they're drawing cards, they're pressuring on board. They've kept a card they've not played yet on the far left, which is terrifying. It's just pretty much always Skull. I think you do have to get going here, so I like this from Blyze.
Needs help. Gets it with the Arcane Breath. Okay.
And also rolling Fireball. Not bad. Around turn 5, you're going to see those big minions, or you expect to see those big minions exactly coming down. So at least having a 1-for-1 answer for them at least is an option for Blythe going forward.
Oh boy. The Apprentice is sticking. Not the best hand for it right now, but that can change with one simple top deck from Blyze. Gonna rip the rolling fireball. The board has now been won at the very least from Blyze, and he's done it early enough that it can be impactful. If he'd have taken 1 or 2 more rounds of chip damage from those minions, found himself in a lot of trouble. But now Casie is just going to have to reset, reconsolidate, and yep, once again, trading the Lapidary into a minion from his opponent.
Yeah, and that's just a giant. Secrets to back it up, of course. It's vaporized, so it's not going to get too much value, but most importantly, this is going to slow Casie down even more. Maybe, just maybe, with a box in hand and a Pyroblast, Blyze isn't too upset about slowing the game down.
No counterspell, no
A
spellbender.
blunder.
A blunder indeed.
Wait. Wait, what did he do
Oof.
that to? I'm really confused.
So he tested for Counterspell with the Demon Companion, he then tested for Spellbender with the Soul Shear, but why the Soul Shear was not pointed at the Giant?
Right, that's
That,
what's
that
there,
remains to be seen.
Yeah. I was like, why does that thing have 8 health still?
Yes.
It wasn't Spellbender. It's like, what's going on? Messenger Raven, what a throwback. Actually played from hand and not summoned some way.
Yeah.
I will crush your delusions of grandeur.
Lab partner over Sorcerer's Apprentice? Yeah, sure. Okay.
I mean,
Never
its
thought
hand didn't do much.
Right. Never thought I'd see the day, but specifically the Raz plus 2 10-mana spells hand? Yeah, probably. That makes sense. No real value for the Sorcerer's Apprentice. Pretty colossal value for the Raz in pushing lethal against your opponent who's at 12.
He's going to have to go for that card draw. Oh, he's going to Blade Dance now. Okay. Oh, he's going to wait.
It's just dead on board if he doesn't Blade Dance, right? Has to do it.
Yeah, you're right. This is just too much now, right? Raz and the spell damage.
Yep. Yeah, no real reason to ping here. You get that 1 damage back from playing the spell damage minion anyway, alongside another Violet Spellwing that you get in play.
A year.
Not played dance number 2, which means that's going to be the game. Blyze evens it up. And honestly, what looked to be a fantastic opening did just slip away from Casie there, almost out of nowhere, honestly. The Giant just proving to be a bit of a problem, just coming down so early.
Yeah, and you can rewind that all the way back. And, like, this is a skill set I'm kind of having to develop while casting Blyze games, is, like, I might not necessarily get to talk about something in the moment, but just log it away and you might come to get to come back to it. One of the decisions he made very quickly there was snap picking a mirror image over an ice barrier. We didn't have the chance to talk about it at the time. In most games we would, because people would rope that decision in a lot of positions. Blyze snap picked it, and obviously Ice Barrier is classically considered one of the strongest cards in that matchup, right? And we saw the impact that it can have. We've seen it today, specifically. But with the particular 2 or 3 turn game plan that Blyze had laid out, the mirror image was so much better for him specifically because it protected his Sorcerer's Apprentice on the turn where he popped off. He wasn't worried about protecting his own face. He wasn't worried about healing. He wasn't worried about Ice Barrier. He wasn't worried about blocking weapons from hitting him. He wanted to stick Apprentice, and that's what he managed to do. And even though his Mana Cyclone was pretty low value for a Sorcerer's Apprentice, just being able to Rolling Fireball on the following turn is what completely swung that game on his head. And then from that point, yes, Casie threw a little bit with, you know, pointing the Soul Shear at the wrong thing and taking too much damage. But the point was, at that point, Blyze was at 25 and had landed a Giant. Like, he was already in control of that game at that point, and it's because of that mirror image pick early on, which I think is a really, really smart decision, which he made like that. Like, we didn't have a chance to react to it. But you've got to take note of these things.
And it's the thing, right? You don't need Ice Barrier, you don't need health. If you're so far ahead, you just win the game anyway, right? So that's why, you know, I do like that a lot. A Shard Shatter could have ruined that, of course, and could have changed the outcome of the game quite dramatically. But guess what? Your opponent doesn't always have a Shard Shatter available to them. So, yeah, sometimes it does help you quite a lot. And it does mean we are going to go down into our game number 5 between these two players, Sottle. So they played a good amount of games against each other today. And it's going to be decided on this one as Casie, once again, of course, on that Demon Hunter. And Blyze now has his Highlander Priest to go up against this Demon Hunter with. And honestly, I feel like we question Highlander Priest every week. Blyze has never not brought it over, 2-off, for example. So I think I'm kind of done questioning it at this point, at least if Blyze is taking it.
I'm not. I'll continue to question it until the day I die, Raven. You'll have to drag me kicking and screaming away from this microphone before I accept the fact that Highlander Priest is the bring over 2-offs. But particularly in this matchup, I do think you struggle. You don't really have the Outlast capabilities that I think more and more we're seeing people come around to now, like the inevitable conclusion of just having Pyromancer Apotheosis and like 6 spells in one turn that you can build to with the other version of the deck. Like that doesn't really exist with Highlander Priest, on top of which like you can't consistently get a bunch of Draconic studies to discover big Taunt Dragons and put those in the way. So really, the only strategy you have left with the Highlander version is kind of mid-range counter pressure, where you just try and curve out and be relatively aggressive yourself, stick minions, and then hopefully at least land that one Apotheosis that you do have on some big mid-rangey minion that you've stuck into play. But I do think your win condition is significantly less consistent than what people have access to in the 2-off version, in this matchup specifically.
So far, though, both players are having it off to a pretty good start, honestly, because the double Mana Saber, what am I talking about? Mana Feeder is quite aggressive there, and most importantly, this is what we've been missing most of the Demon Hunter games today. It's just this Marrow Slicer on curve. This is what you're after. You want this with the backup of your 5 drops, which Casie now has. But on Blyze's side, he's not messing about either. He just has firm control of this board.
Job done.
Yeah, it's already now reaching the point where Casie really can't afford to interact with this board in any way other than Blade Dance. But once that Blade Dance is down the drain, he's kind of all in at that point and trying to end the game quite quickly. And I know he has a very powerful hand for actually setting that up and doing that. It's getting a little bit less powerful with every one of those that he draws off the top of his deck, though.
You don't pick the ones, see?
Oh, double jump is huge. It means if this initial push does fail, he is now able to reset with the potential of a double jump into Skull.
I'm wondering, there's any timings for this Elucia?
Your mind is not your own.
I'm gonna go for the Cabal Acolyte with the 1 maker this turn. It does give hero power into glaive-bound options, just the Soul Shard Lapidary, but again, that feels a little bit bad. It's actually a bit of an awkward turn here for Casie. That's the problem when you have these things, like just one taunt that you can't quite clear off because there's no weapon equipped now.
Yeah.
Just makes these turns just ever a little bit annoying. And look how much worse this feels.
Let's just keep in mind that this double jump can also pick up a consume magic specifically. So you do have to keep your eye on lethal outs anytime you see a situation like this, just to be able to silence through the taunt and get pushing. But Casey's still some way off right now.
Look at this turn, right? Like, bank 2 damage and then clear half your own board.
Mm-hmm.
Doesn't feel great, but Casie still has access to a ton of damage, or did? Next turn? Twin Slice gone.
Casey's reaction to that, like, no big deal. I lose a twin slice, basically. Like, and yeah, you can see it. That is basically all he loses.
It's worth a double jump, though, right?
I guess.
Puts the skull one
skull
card
middle.
deep, right?
Yep.
Yeah.
I like it.
And most importantly, I think, just gives Blyze an extra turn to get to some other options, I suppose. Wow, okay. Oh, the steal, it's pretty rough along with that Broom. That's actually a pretty sick throw for Casie.
Oh, that's such a huge draw. Just because, like, Casie now has perfect information about the hand minus 1 card. The fact that that 1 card is exactly Soul Mirror, which is just never going to get played around in this scenario, is so insane.
Yeah, Blyze knows that Militia's there.
Yep.
Look at this slowly. If this is a Militia turn... Does it have to be a Militia turn? I don't think so.
I mean, again, like, think of the level of caster vision that we have, where we're like Casie knows every card in the hand right now, but I still think, I guess, it's just far more enticing.
You
to
got
set
too much
this up.
damage.
Yeah. Again, because you know the hand, right? You know that there's nothing that blocks your 2-turn lethal setup, so why not just land the 2-turn lethal setup?
It's like, is your opponent actually going to stop you going Blade Bound, Lapidary if you want, or, you know, whatever combination of that, right?
Right.
Are you actually going to get stopped? Like, I don't think so.
Such a beautiful shield.
Casie just bringing this all the way down to the basics. Can I hit them in the face? Yes, I'm going to hit them in the face. Next question.
Life and hope are worth fighting.
It's going to be xBlyzes, and this is for everything. And that does not look like it's going to be enough. That looks like it's going to be game. And Casie now takes the match over Blaze. And arguably, Subtle, the more important one. Casie and Blaze are 1-1 today. But Casie overall is the real winner as he makes it to Sunday's broadcast, which is the final day of playoffs.
Couldn't he Mally into Mally Frostbolt and technically be alive there?
Doesn't have the mana, right? xBlyzes 9 mana, Mally's 1 mana?
Yeah, but
Or is it it's 0.
It's zero mana Frostbolt, the minion, and then you're technically alive on board. I guess.
Oh no,
like,
he knows he has the other Glade Bound, right?
did he? I mean, whatever. Not important. What's important is that Blaze is dead at that point, which is, you know, it's sad to see. I think I would have loved to have seen Blaze as a potential world championship representative, but huge commendations yet again to Casie, who is slowly but surely, I think, carving out a reputation for himself as one of the most consistent players in Europe. I think he has flown a little bit under the radar a bit. Like, you could argue that he's kind of on Yala's path here, but maybe a year further down the line, right? Where he hasn't necessarily had that one huge win, but he slowly but surely over a number of years gained everyone's respect. And now, just based on making it to the World Championship in the previous year through Grandmasters, he's kind of 1 year accelerated ahead of where Yala is. Because I think both of these players here, whose portraits you see advancing through to Sunday, do deserve a ton of credit for just not only the level of play that they brought to Grandmasters in Europe, but also the level of line